thinking about what startup culture means. So this is also something that we talk to our clients a lot about is, okay, there's work hard, play hard. There's like work-life balance. What does that all mean? They have free beer and ping pong and like all the stuff that used to exist probably more before COVID. But what is a good culture? And so often we'll work with clients to figure out, well, what matters to you the most? Is it flexibility? Is it relationships? Is it innovation? And then finding that in a culture that's really important to you.
One of the more important things to consider, and the benefits of a startup that I've found is impact.
Mm.
Like, what kind of impact do you want your work to have? Like your 9 to 5, the energy and the blood, sweat, and tears that you're pouring into it. Like, there are a lot of pros and cons to the startup world, but that's probably the biggest pro is, you will walk into an environment like you're talking about. We're figuring it out. There's not the same amount of resources that you might have in a larger company. There's not the same set processes, but that means you get to build all those things. You get to see um, the essentially the impact of what you're doing usually is right in front of you. 6 months later, you can see the thing, or the product or the process or the initiative that you built out really affect either the bottom line, the good or negative way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is one thing that I know when I interview people coming from bigger companies, I say, like, we don't have this thing yet. You're going to help us figure it out. And there have been people that I've worked with in past companies that sort of grew with the company. And I'm like, we have to go back to those earlier stages. Or maybe they worked at a company that still called themselves a startup, but they were actually over 500 people. So they
Mhm.
had a team of 5 doing something that's very different than being the first.
Yep.
And so that's another thing to really think about is, do I want to be the first of something or do I want to join maybe a smaller team and maybe I'm number 3 on that team because those are 2 very different experiences.
That's something as you're going into the process, if you are making a transition from a bigger company to really dig into in the interview process and the fact finding of understanding like what is the reality of what you are walking into and what do the resources look like what is set in stone, what's not set in stone, and it kind of paints the picture for you as far as like what what your day to day is going to look like and how much energy you're going to need to be pouring into the role.
Yeah. And one thing I always tell people is that there's no right or wrong answer. It's what do you enjoy and what do you expect? So if you like being a builder, awesome, go to an earlier stage company. If you like focusing more on scaling, maybe that's more like the middle of the road. If you want to have things sort of set and like, here's the playbook, now go do the playbook, that's probably later on.
Yeah.
And by the way, there can be different teams at different stages within a company. So these are all things that, again, joining a startup is awesome, but you need to ask yourselves these questions to make sure you get to the right startup.
Probably one of the more important things, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about as we go through this, is it's certainly sort of paramount to me in considering startups and working at startups is, do you actually believe in the mission or the product of the company? Because that can answer a lot of those questions that you're asking. Like, do you want to are you a builder? Yes, but are you a builder for this? Do you believe in
Mm.
this? Are you passionate about this? Are you willing to go those extra steps? Are you willing to, work on a team that doesn't quite have the resources go through the blood, sweat, and tears of dealing with ambiguity or things changing on a dime? And if you can drill it down to, do I believe in this product or the mission, the impact that this company is trying to make? It's usually probably the one of the more important questions that you can ask yourself in making this transition.
Yeah. And I think to that point too, around the ambiguity piece, it also may be your job is really big in the beginning. Like you may be doing a lot of things because they haven't gotten to the specialist stage yet. So do you like to be a specialist where you sort of do, just taking HR, for example, like I handle training within HR and that's all I'm expected to do? Or am I going to be more of a generalist where I'm handling recruiting, benefits, employee relations, training, office management, event coordination, and so thinking about how much do you like to focus versus do you like having all those different things on your plate? And it may not stay that way always. Like as the team grows, maybe you get some help, but those are also different things of not only where do you want to focus and what do you want to focus on, but do you have the skills to kind of like sort of cover or maybe BS your way through some of those other hats that you have to wear?